Welcome with a new episode of the Market Reporters, and every week we make a vlog for you. So we do it 52 times a year. We do it for 4 or 5 years because we want to share the knowledge, the information, the experiences that we on a daily basis, on a minute basis experience with our investors. So we try to help you to make even a better investor. And this time we look back at the year 2024. We have 6 topics that we want to discuss with you, and hopefully, hopefully we do it differently than the normal, the more mainstream media.
Analysts of experts.
Overall, I think it was a good year. If you look at the S&P 500 plus 25%, gold plus 33%, and the Bitcoin plus 136%. We try to talk about sectors because individual stocks is always more difficult and more risky, and we try to discuss with you, to share our vision on the markets. In the beginning, I close off with the best performed stocks in the US with a performance you don't wanna know. I didn't have it. Probably you also didn't have it. I hope you had it in your portfolio since the beginning of the year. But it's an amazing stock. I will close up with this one. In February, we gave a lot of seminars and also a few vlogs about the sector of 2024, AI sector. And what we discussed, we brought the sector down in 3 subsectors: in cybersecurity, cloud computing, and semiconductors. So then you can decide for yourself. I believe more in those 2 subsectors, and I don't believe maybe in that one. How did that subsectors did it this year? I looked at some ETFs. The cybersecurity plus almost 30%. The cloud computing a little bit less, plus 20%, and the semiconductors, we discussed the FANX semiconductor ETF, performed 37%. Hey, and maybe if you saw our vlog or if you saw our presentations, we said that it is expected for the next 5-6 years that the AI sector will grow on an annual basis with 37% a year. And you see, hey, the FANX semiconductors exactly 37% this year. Within that semiconductor sector, of course, is NVIDIA, and we have to discuss NVIDIA. Beginning of this year, $48. Now, almost the last day of the year, $137. So that's a growth of 185%, more than the Bitcoin. Yeah. Then we also discussed the Polar Capital Artificial Intelligence. That's an overall, not an ETF, it's a mutual fund, and that performed also very well, exactly 36% this year. Exactly the market. I think.
The expectations.
Yeah, I think next week we're going to talk about the outlook.
Yeah.
AI, we have to discuss it. If you are not invested in it, the outlook is a growth of 37% on a yearly basis next year. So reach out to us if we can help you with that subsector. Martin, I move on to you.
No. I think it's very important because it was what rules the world at the moment, is the whole AI story. What also ruled the world for a very short moment was Japan. In August, we all knew what happened on the 5th of August. The market.
I was on holiday.
You were on holiday.
I was in
but
Medellin.
you called us to see how we were doing because the market dropped 5%.
Yeah.
The Japanese market up for this year 22%. If you look at the dip that we had from mid-July till that 5th of August, was a dip of 28%. It was the biggest drop in one day, actually, that took place on that 5th of August in the Japanese market, of 12 and something percent, because everybody talking about 1987, the Black Monday, but that day the market actually ended higher than it opened in the morning. In this case, the market literally closed 12% higher. The next day it was all recovered again. What was the main cause? Of course, we know after the COVID crisis, a lot of free money came on the market. Japan kept doing that quite some time longer. In the US, we stopped sort of like end of 2022. You saw the market correcting quite heavily from that in 2022. Afterwards, of course, is history. We saw 2023 and 2024 really good years on the stock market. But Japan kept those interest rates low. So what did the Japanese people do? Japanese investors, they took the money from Japan and invested it initially in US bonds. But they also thought, okay, why should we not buy some NVIDIA shares, for instance? So that's what happened. They were buying those shares. Of course, we know that the interest rates in the United States started to go down. In Japan, they started to raise them, with the effect that people start turning around that carry trade, as they call it. So you take money cheap and you invest it where you can get some yield. That shift, that movement, in combination with the uncertainty that brings, caused the market to correct really, really heavily. So for a lot of people, it was not a nice day. For me, it's one of those days that you remind of 2024, that Taco and me were in the office helping our clients. So hopefully that doesn't happen too much in 2025.
In March, we spoke about Cacao.
Yes.
Because in 2023, it already started to raise the price per kilo. And when we talked about it, the price was $8,000. And in the beginning of the year, it was $3,950. Why? Because the harvests are not good in the countries in Africa where they produce it. And because to make a new plant, it will take around 5 years from a seed to a plant that you can harvest from. Unfortunately, we discussed also about how the prices are set on a yearly basis. Please look back to the vlog in March. And unfortunately for the farmers, so they had to deliver for a cheap price, and they couldn't produce for that price. So that's really bad for the farmers. We discussed that. After we discussed it in March, the price went up to a peak of 12,000, and now it's back to 9,600 on a yearly basis. On a yearly basis, Cacao is performing 153% plus. But this is an important, I think we put a chart in the screen. It's an important moment. If you look at it at the chart, it can go both ways. Please look at it. It was the best performing commodity, I think, of this year. Rice didn't do well. It was minus 24%. Cacao is really interesting to follow. You also want to talk about the commodity.
Yeah, Taco and myself, we talk about iron, metal, steel in this case, also in August. I like the month of August, 16th of August. Steel prices were down from the beginning of this year until that moment with almost 30%, from 3,950 yens to almost 2,800 yens per yuan, sorry, not yen, yuan, per ton. So the main reason, of course, was the cooling down of the Chinese real estate market. With that goes a lot of steel demand. That was a lot less. A lot of the analysts, like the big financial houses like UBS, Goldman Sachs, they were predicting steel prices even much lower than that by the end of the year. Well, they were not correct, because the steel price from that moment, from the middle of August until today, has recovered with almost 20%, mainly due to the uncertainties about what's going to be the tariffs that's going to be put on steel. So people want to be before that. And also we saw a pickup in the demand of steel from India. ArcelorMittal, the stock that Taco looked at that moment, that's the same vlog. It was one of the best vlogs actually of the year, with a lot of viewers. So thank you for that if you watched it. Steel price has a big impact on ArcelorMittal. ArcelorMittal went from 20 back to 25, and at the moment it's trading around 22, 23. You can see that that stock is very much correlated to the price of steel. So interesting to see what's going to happen in 2025. If we're going to have a recession, if we're not, etc., all those elements have a big influence on this commodity.
The last two topics, two stocks, two top performing stocks. I want to talk about the best performing stock of the US. In the beginning of this year, it was, you could, on the 2nd of January, you still could buy the stock for $2.64. At this moment, so almost the last day of the trading of the year 2024, it's trading at around $78. If you put that in percentages, it's 2,800 something percent. 2,800 something percent. Again, I think it's I didn't have it, you didn't have it, I know, and probably it's called GeneDx Holdings Corporation. They're still making losses, but they had a really good year because their performance, and you saw that in the quarterly figures of the 29th of October, the stock rose on that day 50%, because the revenues from their main activity, and the main activity is testing on your DNA. So what they can do, they look at your DNA, and then they can make an an estimation what kind of illnesses you are probably will get. So I think it's a really interesting company, and 77% of that revenues from that testing was announced in the Q3 figures in 29th of October. So they still make a loss, but I think it's a really nice company to look at because they're working in a preventive way and looking at DNA, and then they can prepare you for the future. GeneDx Holdings, please have a look at it. It can be really interesting.
Yeah, another company that we all talked about many times is Microstrategy. We discussed it also in one of our vlogs 2 years ago. And at that moment, the company was losing 1.1 billion in their books based on their investments in Bitcoin. The company started buying Bitcoin in 2020. They invested initially 250 million. And what are they actually doing is it's a business intelligence company. Their first big client, they were founded in 1989. The first big client was 1992 for a contract of 10 million with McDonald's. And they're quite, how can I say that? They have quite a name on the stock market, to say so. In 2000, their stock went down in one day with 62% because they say the figures that they published over 1999 and 1998 weren't as they presented them, so they went down, and that was actually the start, the first company that went down, and they took a lot of other companies with it in the .com bubble. So that was MicroStrategy. All in all, 2022, they were just close from having a margin call on this big investment. The Bitcoin could not go down 21,000. It just hit 20,800. They didn't have this margin call, but they were playing with fire at that moment. So interesting company to keep following, specifically if you...
how many,
at this moment, yes, they have 423,000 something Bitcoins in their books.
And they're the number 10 best performing of the US stocks.
Yeah.
But the
company's not doing anything.
They don't make a profit.
No, and they didn't sell also. So they just based on the assets.
500% plus something
513%, yeah. So interesting year again, no?
Yeah. We would like to thank you for all the views, for becoming a member of us, of our YouTube channel. If you're not, please subscribe, give us your thumb, give us your comments. You can always reach out to you. We are always, if the stock markets are open, we are open, and we can help you with your investments.
That's it.
So thank you again for watching us. Give us your thumb.
Happy New Year.
See you next year.